celebrates two things. Both are pretty obvious. We celebrate Pentecost, the coming of the Holy Spirit to the first believers, giving them the courage to go out and to proclaim Jesus Christ with no fear and no concern. On this day, the days of being locked in a room together and sneaking out to get food, hoping no one would see them, were over. A new time had begun for the disciples. We also celebrate more immediately these five brothers who are affirming their baptismal promises their parents made for them many years ago. On this day, you speak for yourself. Your parents no longer have to say what you promised. You are promising in front of God and everyone gathered here that you are taking on the life of a Christian. You are saying yes for yourself. Both things that we celebrate are about beginning new, about a new time, a new start, the end of an old way and moving forward. I'm sure that on this day, one of the things that is running through the minds of my five young brothers is, 3 years are finally over. No more Wednesday nights when I have to come to confirmation class. I know that's what you're thinking. And that's true. However, I feel as your pastor that I need to remind you, as I remind most confirmation classes on this day, yeah, that part's over. But something new is beginning today. It is a deeper life as a Christian. Because again, what you are saying on this day, Zach, and Chip, and Kieran, and Graham, and Jerry, is yes. I want this. I want this life. I want to be a follower of Jesus Christ. I want to live out who Jesus Christ calls me to be. And so that begins today. So as we remember those 3 years you just completed, we also look forward to living as Christians. Because times change. It's what happens today for all of you who are being confirmed. Today really ends nothing. What it does is deepen your Christianity. You become a deeper part of this faith on this day. Now, as you know, parents, all of you gathered here today who have lived a little bit, and as you will soon know, my young brothers, things change. We go from elementary school to middle school to high school to college and then off into the regular world, the world of jobs and families and responsibilities. New roads begin. It's time to move forward. Now, in this time that you're moving forward in your faith, it's not a promise that it will be easy. There will be wonderful times in your life. There will be challenging times in your life. But we never go into a new part of our life without the Spirit right next to us. Marriage, parenthood, new jobs, leaving school, all are done with God's Spirit. You see, you have to remember that new roads mean new gifts. New pathways means new ways the Spirit is going to reveal herself. In this life, one thing that will never end, one thing that you can never be separated from is your relationship with God. You see, friendships that we see as so important to us now sometimes end. It happens. And new ones begin. Jobs that we are so excited about and nervous to begin in time will end. And maybe new ones begin. We walk the same road as people for years and years. We share the deepest moments of our life with them. And then at some point in those lives, the roads diverge and we take our separate paths. Blessed by that relationship, but aware that in time, most things change and most things end. In the gospel, Jesus tells the disciples that he has to leave. Something new has to happen in order for the Spirit to come. See, Jesus knew that it was his time. He knew that something important had to happen. People had to know him and his message in a deeper way, in a bigger way. And that could only happen if the Spirit came. Change does not always feel good. As a matter of fact, it rarely feels good. If the disciples had had their way, Jesus would have never left. The things that were happening and their relationship with Jesus would have stayed exactly the way it was. But Jesus knew that things do have to change in time. But the promise of the Spirit is that we are never left alone. That when those changes happen, yes, God is with you. Sometimes in our life, we have to make a hard right-hand turn from the path that we're on, the path that we're used to, the path that we are comfortable with. And as clear and open as the road is up ahead, we have to make that change. Even though we want to go this way, our destiny is over here. And we resist that sometimes. But again, the promise is if you make that hard right-hand turn, you do it with the Spirit. For the parents of our 5 brothers who on this morning affirmed their baptism, I'm sure and I hope that at some point this morning you reflected back on when they were small. I can't imagine if you didn't. Remembering when they were baptized, either at this font or at some other font. When they would fall asleep to a story you read them. When you would hold their hand crossing the street. And if you didn't, think back in the rush of this morning of getting Sunday clothes on kids who probably didn't want to wear them, and getting here on time, and think about it now. Think about it later today. Think back over the years. How many changes have happened in those years? How many different things are now that weren't then? And remember this also. The one constant amid all those changes is God. God has been with you in all of those moments, in those quiet moments you shared with your sons when nobody else was around. God was there. And in the moments that will come in their futures, graduations and weddings and all the sorts of celebrations they will have, God will be there also. I remember my confirmation 37 years ago. 37 years. You're going to remember this day, guys. You will. I remember the church. I remember who was there. I remember what I wore. I remember the name of the person who confirmed me. I even remember one of the readings done. Now, I had no idea what the sermon was about. And I am humble enough to recognize that neither will any of you. You will not remember what I'm saying today. But I want you to remember one thing. Now, back in my college days, I was a psych major. One of the things that I learned is that we learn best when we're out of our comfort zone. We're doing something different. So I'm going to ask my 5 brothers to stand up, take a step out into the aisle. I know you don't want to, but I'm telling you, because you're doing something different now, you're going to remember what I'm saying. I want you to remember this, all of you. Whatever life brings you, whatever joy, whatever heartbreak, God is with you. God is right next to you, and if you turn to God, either in gratitude or in need, God will answer you. So if you forget everything I just said, I'm going to say, remember that. Thank you, sit down. See, all the things we pin our hopes on for living a complete life, a deep life, a life of real purpose, a life that has true meaning. Things like careers, income, sports, popularity, education, relationships. When all is said and done, all of these things can let you down. God will never, ever let you down. They can make you happy. Don't get me wrong. Can money buy you happiness? Can money buy you happiness? What do we think? I'm going to tell you, yeah, it can. Money can buy you happiness. But when did Jesus Christ ever talk about being happy? Happiness, my sisters and brothers, is a flash from the pan. It's here, and in a few hours, sometimes in a few minutes, it's gone. Happiness is fleeting. So if you have money, yeah, you can have happiness, but it won't last very long. This past Monday, I was going to take the garbage cans in after they were emptied. And I saw driving right down here on Woodland Avenue a red sports car, and its license plate read, "My Church." And I thought to myself, how pathetic that is. This was his church. Whoever this person was, and all of his misguided seeking for happiness and success, this, in his own words, was his church. And I thought that was really just sad. Because somewhere along the line, he missed it. He missed what this life is really about. Because eventually that nice red sports car is going to get old, and it's going to rust, it's going to break down, he's going to need some other toy to make him happy. See, Jesus in the Gospels talks about joy, not happiness. He talks about peace and truth and real things, things that don't leave us in a heartbeat. That's what God's Spirit is for. So I say to all of you who are here in this church on this day, whether you've been here, coming for years, whether this is your first time here, but especially to my 5 younger brothers, stay close to God. When it comes down to it, when you feel like everything else is gone, when you feel like people have abandoned you, but they never really will, but when you feel like it, understand that God is with you and that God will always be with you. Amen? Let it be so.